And now the veritable hither come to Jesus moment for Republicans everywhere. The time when Donald Trump begins his true steamroll to Cleveland and a battle with Hillary Clinton. Maybe. And those who see him as a danger to our way of life rise up and begin political insurrection. And here you thought this was all over. More than any time in the past 6 months, Republicans are facing a true fracture in their ranks. When one of the most powerful men in D.C. takes a bold slap at the presumptive nominee. But under the surface, a serious question being posed. Is this what has to be done? We are still at the point of asking ourselves what needs to be done against the cockroach-style killers who won't go away. ISIS cannot be forgotten, especially when you consider that despite claims to the contrary, they are winning when it comes to one specific facet of this war. What the biggest loser tells us about ourselves, and this has nothing to do with politics, and the political punching bag vamps on the Veep and more, where we leave you with plenty to digest over the weekend, also a few adult beverages as well if you'd like. I'm Ed Berliner. This is The Hardline for Friday, May 6th, 2016.
The concern has been since last week when hundreds of demonstrators broke into Baghdad's Green Zone. The pictures were very compelling. These are anti-government protesters in Iraq demonstrating against the government there, somewhat at the behest of the Shiite cleric Muqtada al-Sadr. The concern had been again Friday today that more demonstrations would break out.
When it comes to military engagements, not just here in America, but in almost every corner of the globe, one thing is certain. We will be blown over by our leaders at one stretch or another as to how wonderful the war is going. Happened in the first two world wars, Korea, Vietnam, Gulf War, everywhere and anywhere. It's always been about winning hearts and minds while seeking to win the battle. We as a nation need to be a lot smarter and understand tens of thousands of troops on the ground, multi-ton bombs slamming into the earth with pinpoint accuracy, offshore guns pounding away at enemy positions. The video looks powerful. The rhetoric makes a mark. And when we are told we're winning, it's not always the case. 6 months of American-led airstrikes against ISIS, and the Pentagon tells us we are beginning to see progress. This as ISIS continues winning in their effort to destroy civilizations, make millions of people homeless, and leave future generations of those in Arab countries to despise America and all it stands for. We're racking up numbers, but are we racking up real victories? Let's begin by welcoming the former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, author of Architects of Disaster, and Shillman Sr fellow at the Investigative Project on Terrorism, Pete Hoekstra, joined by the noted expert on such matters within the Islamic world, author of 10 Years Captivation with the Mahdi Camps, Dr. Timothy Furnish. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. Dr. Furnish, I'm going to begin with you first. I'm going to take us back to earlier this week, the Iraqi city of Ramadi. The pictures that came out of there, complete and total devastation, bomb craters, obliterated buildings, a city of 1 million people now virtually empty. Is it not fair to say that we may be winning the war when it comes to bombing villages and taking out infrastructure, but the vermin keep running? They have destroyed Ramadi, destroyed civilizations with our help. That counts as a victory for them, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah. The only metric by which we might be said to be winning, Ed, is, a McNamara one, which that didn't work very well last time we used those metrics. The thing that ISIS is in his eschatological apocalyptic movement. That is their view of Islam. They are ushering in not the end of the world, but the Islamic conquest of the world. And we won't even admit ISIS is Islamic, much less that they're an apocalyptic Islamic movement. So until we get that straight, half of the equation, which is the if you will, the information war or the psychological war against ISIS, we will continue to lose. And the other side of that, of course, is the kinetic war. And as you just pointed out, we're not doing very well with that one either.
Pete, let's look at it this way then. Are we truly winning, and don't we have to be careful? Doesn't the Pentagon have to be more careful when they tell the American people that we're winning, when in essence these civilizations are being rocketed to the ground?
Well, I think it's very clear that the American people are not believing the Pentagon. They're not believing this administration. If they really thought that we were winning, you'd see a much stronger support for the Washington establishment. But the American people believe on issue after issue that Washington and Washington politicians are lying. And that's why you're seeing, the kind of results electorally that you are seeing. The American people are saying no to Washington. They're saying no to the Pentagon because they see what's happening. They see what's happening in Libya, what's happening in Iraq, what's happening in Syria. And they're saying, if they're telling us this is winning, I'd hate to see what losing is.
We talk about people on the ground. A recent ISIS ambush that killed a Navy SEAL. The Pentagon says it was a complete surprise. They said perhaps this could have been avoided. Pete, I know that you've been following this story very carefully here. This could have been avoided. It comes down once again to putting arms in the hands of the right people. It comes down to being outgunned. Pete, I swear to those of us who are old enough to remember, it sounds like we're right back in Vietnam all over again with excuses upon excuses just being piled up.
Yeah, that's right. The attack may have been a surprise, all right, but what led up to the attack was not a surprise. ISIS attacked the front lines of the Peshmerga. They attacked them with vehicle-borne IEDs, bulldozers, trucks, vehicles, Humvees that had been turned into mobile bombs. We hadn't equipped the Kurds and the Peshmerga, their troops, to take out these kinds of vehicles, anti-tank guns and these types of things. We have not given the Kurds the weapons that they need to defend themselves. So the ISIS was able to break through the front lines. American troops and other Peshmerga had to rush to the front lines to seal that pocket. And when they did, they were ambushed behind their front lines because the ISIS forces have better equipment than what the Peshmerga did. And so the folks that we are fighting with, we have not given them the arms, and that's why another brave American dies. If we had given the Peshmerga the equipment, the weapons, and the tools that ISIS has, just give them a fair fight, they probably would never have broken through the front lines, and you would not have had to see American troops rushing to the front lines.
Pete, you mentioned ISIS with better equipment. I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. But Dr. Furnish, I want to come to you when it comes down to what Pete brought up about arming the Kurds. Let's be very frank here. We have heard this over and over again. We have heard this now for years, that if we arm them, should we arm them? Why don't we arm them? In your opinion, knowing the area, knowing the ground, what happens there, is that really the key? If we really just load them up, give them everything that they possibly need, will that, in your opinion, actually turn the tide?
It's very likely to do so. It's not certain.
But it gives us a better chance, though. It gives us a better chance, yes?
Yes. It gives us an option before committing U.S. ground troops, enough ground troops to do the job instead of just pretend like we're doing the job like we are now, and unfortunately getting brave Americans killed. But the reason we don't do it, Ed, is because the United States is clinging to this fiction, and I have to say for once I actually agree with Joe Biden on something. We're clinging to this fiction of the territorial integrity of the Iraqi state. Northern Iraq has been a de facto Kurdish state since 1991, the end of that war. We should go ahead and act on that geopolitical reality. We insist on funneling weapons through Baghdad, and the Sunni Arabs that control Baghdad, the Shia Arabs that control Baghdad are not going to allow the Kurds, who are mostly Sunnis, to have heavy weapons or very many weapons at all.
So we've got to stop playing this game.
Yes,
it's
going to be a problem.
I mean, we got to stop playing this game, right? And that's really all it is.
Yes.
It's a word game that goes on and on, and we're kidding ourselves.
Exactly.
Every single time. Pete, I want to come back to that phrase about ISIS having better equipment. And what Dr. Furnish just said, pretending like we're doing the job. I'm going to be honest here for a second, Pete. What the hell is going on here? We're the American government. We're the American military. We're supposed to be better armed than anybody. We're supposed to have a president that will lead us forward and get us to victory in what's going on here. So I got to tell you, Pete, this frustrates the living daylights out of me because we keep asking this question. It's like circling around the drain.
We should all be frustrated. The Kurds are willing to, and have demonstrated the willingness to take the fight to ISIS, as have the Sunni tribes, but this administration clings to the belief that the Shia government in Baghdad is the future of Iraq and can hold the country together. That is not going to happen. We need to equip the Kurds directly, the Sunni tribes directly. They will take the fight to ISIS. ISIS is better equipped. Why? Because the Shia government in Baghdad fled when ISIS first came into Iraq. They fled their weapons depots. ISIS captured all of those weapons, and we have never armed the Kurds or the Sunnis. The Kurds have taken a tremendous number of casualties. They are willing to fight. They have demonstrated it, but we still, there was a recent announcement, we're sending another $400 million to the Kurds.
Wonderful.
That's inaccurate. We're sending $400 million to Iraq, to Baghdad, and we hope that they will transfer that money to the Kurds where we want it to go.
We hope with $400 million while we have problems in America. Wonderful. I got 90 seconds left. Let's do this quickly. Dr. Furnish, back to you. What's happening in the Green Zone right now? This is a corrupt Iraqi government. This is a government that we help put there. This is a government that we help support every single day. Is it not fair to say that every day this happens, we're not helping? What we're doing is we're creating the next generation of future Islamists who are going to hate America for what they did. We're back doing the same damn thing we've done for 3 decades.
Yeah, we're pretty clueless in the Middle East there. That's true, but don't downplay the factor of Iran here. Iran does not like the government that we have basically helped install in Baghdad. Iran would like a more compliant, Iran-friendly Shia government. And so Muqtada al-Sadr, of course, the 12er Shia cleric, Iraqi cleric, is the one behind this, and he's doing this at the behest of Tehran.
But we are still doing the same thing that we did over and over again, and we're not learning. Pete, 30 seconds to you. Is it not fair to say, let's just get this out in the open here, until Barack Obama gets out of office and somebody gets in there who understands what is really happening overseas and spends the time to understand it, where it can continue to spend stupid amounts of money and we're going to cost American lives?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I wrote about it in my book that the first thing the next president has to do is step back and try to identify the lessons that we have learned over the last 15 years and apply those lessons in a new strategy, a new bipartisan strategy to confront and defeat ISIS.
Tell us, people, please. It's just very simple, and we've got to stop going back and forth on this. Pete Hoekstra, Dr. Timothy Furnish, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us. I want you to tell me exactly what you think about this using something brand new we're doing here at the Hardline. 15 seconds of fame. It's on video. Rant, rave, tell us. Go to newsmaxusa.com. It's a 15-second video message. Choose the topic. Talk about this. Tell us what you think. Show us what you got. Stay with us. The Hardline continues.